And I think we're live. So Chair, if you want to start the meeting.
Okay, I will call the December 21st, 2020 meeting of the Fairport Industrial Development Agency to order. We'll take an attendance and I will call them off.
Hold on a second. Okay, I'm sorry. Let's try that again. I'm sorry.
From the top. Okay, I will call the December 21st, 2020 meeting of the Fairport Industrial Development Agency together, and we can do a roll call attendance. Rob Kentner.
Here.
Leslie White.
Here.
Donna Stefano.
Here.
I'm right.
Kevin Clark is here. And do we have Ken Rohr by audio? Not at this time. So we all set, Martha? You?
Guys, I'm sorry. I'm getting everything echoed back. I'm getting everything echoed back. So I just have to, I apologize.
Martha, does it help if we go on mute?
Thanks, Rob. I don't think it is. It's the live stream Zoom thing that's really messing up here. Council? Do it without? Okay. All right, I'm back and I think we're live.
Okay.
Council has authorized us to go forward. So I hate technology, by the way. I think you know that. So we've been through the roll call, right?
We're
all
have.
Here?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
And
did you open the public comment?
I did not, but I'm going to open the public comment, and I understand that we have a guest, Chris Casa.
That's right. Yeah.
Who would like to speak with us for a little bit. So Chris, unmute and you're good to go.
All right. Pretty much want to understand why a pilot program might not be possible for the building I'm buying, 24 North Main Street. And I wanted to show a couple pictures of what we've done in the past. My other business, we flip homes around the state. So we buy distressed properties and renovate them. And also with Railroad Street that we renovated, I'm the trustee of that building. We completely gutted the inside to where you walked in the door and nothing but the roof you can see from the inside. Added the second floor, which was never occupied before. And we do a similar thing over here at 24 North Main if I end up buying that. But Martha, how do the pictures work?
Here, I'll share the screen.
All right.
Hopefully.
I'm going to quickly talk about them so I don't take up too much of your time.
So what I have here, Chris, I started just to, this was a packet that I circulated to the board.
Sure.
This was your original proposal, right? And everybody's kind of familiar with that.
Yep.
And then Chris, this is where we're going to start looking at some of the projects you did before.
All right.
There.
All right. So first, the 24 North Main Street drawings are by the architect, and he picked the colors, so not the colors I would go with. I'd make it more vibrant. This is 21 State Street in Bloomfield that was just on the screen. Similar, where we gutted the inside completely to where you've walked in the door and it was basement to roof. Unfortunately, we don't have a good picture of that, but you can kind of see the dirt basement. Yeah, you can keep going through. We had to take off many sides of the house. Let me give you an idea. I bought this for $27,000 and sold it for $265 and had about didn't do well on it, about $260,000 into it. So you can keep going down through them. This is what it looked like pre-demo. This is almost done state. Colors I picked were dark gray with a white. New windows, new insulation, everything that we'd be doing at 24 North Main Street. We had to peel off parts of the house because they were falling off. We had to work on the foundation. We'd be doing the same thing at 24 North Main. You can keep going down. And that's some of the inside. You can keep going.
And this was residential, right, Chris?
Residential, yep. Next one's in Lakewood, New York, 42 Ohio Ave. So there's a before and after, what it looked like before and then after. And I think that's the only pictures I really took of that house. I just wanted to show you the difference of what we do. This is Railroad Street. This is what I was talking about, where we took the floor out above. We didn't have to, we raised the ceilings on the downstairs. Some of those pipes that you see are for fire sprinklers, and they were as low as, I think, 5 feet 1 inch. So we had to move the fire suppression system up and change it so that people, wouldn't be bumping their heads walking down the hallway. You can keep going. That's the upstairs that was never used, where now we have 6 offices up there. One large office that's about 680 square feet. That's the opening for the staircase. There's the actual staircase. So these are pretty much just the finished product. You can keep going past that if you'd like.
Trying to center it there.
A little kitchen, men's room, women's room. That's first floor office.
So I think that's it on the pictures, Chris.
Okay. So with 24 North Main's pretty distressed. It's sinking in the front. There's a difference about from the front corner of the building where the writing's on the window to about 12 feet back, and dips about 12 inches in both those corners. Really, it's worse in the right-handed corner. And the supports going down are all through the middle. We'd like to move the supports to the outside so that there's no obstruction for future tenants coming in. But pretty much after I do all the numbers on this property, what we would do to it in its current state, keeping it like that without the addition coming out the side that you see there, I'd make about the same amount of money keeping it like that and not doing the addition. We do the addition. I now have 8 more tenants, and it would improve the building, obviously, but the time it would take to renovate it and the cost really doesn't benefit. So that's another reason why I'm asking for the pilot. And I kind of want to understand, are there guidelines? Is there, the only thing I can think of, I was a social worker for a while. We had a book called the DSM-4 when we diagnosed somebody, which we wouldn't actually do it, but we would do it with along with a doctor, and they'd have a criteria. If someone has 5 out of these 7 behaviors, they're ADHD or whatever it might be. There's got to be something similar to that. Do you guys just vote and yes, we want to give this property owner a pilot program, or are there some sort of guidelines?
We absolutely have a ratio is what we deal with, and it's a cost benefit ratio of sorts, and it will take into account the investment and how many new projects or new jobs may be generated from that. And there is some other criteria. So we do look at that. Yeah, it's not just totally yes or no.
So with the former post office, did that really create more jobs in this area?
It did. It brought in a new business. But there's also other factors in it. And I think that Martha may have explained some of you to those, in that was a property that was on the market for 5 years and they just had never been able to get anything going with that property. So that was a factor in that too. But they did bring new jobs in, and it had a very high ratio. It ranked very highly for the things that we consider. So it was a good one.
Is there somewhere written where I can see the criteria, whether I actually meet that, have a chance of meeting that or not?
Our
Martha?
uniform, we have a uniform tax exemption policy, which describes the projects that we'd provide assistance to.
Okay.
And she's happy to
this-
share. That's public. So
Yeah, with this building probably adding at least 25 new, well, not jobs, some of them are just businesses, but more jobs to the area. Would that potentially qualify? I would think that it would bring way more people to the area than the one down the road. Also, the old post office, it was really a family mess that why it never got sold. There were people that wanted to go in there, but the family couldn't all agree to sell it.
right.
Yeah.
So tell us a little more about the project itself. We saw what you're doing with talking about with the building, and Martha had shared some information with us regarding how many space, if you go with this concept that we're looking at on the screen right now, if you go with that, how many, what are you bringing in there? Who are the tenants? Where are those tenants coming from? One of our concerns as well, I think that Martha probably did share with you, is we have a reasonably high vacancy amount in the other projects or throughout the village in these kind of, office, commercial, professional spaces. So tell us a little bit about the plan for what this thing would look like if you built this out as you're showing.
Sure. So 17 individual offices down upstairs with 6 interior offices that are usually surprisingly very easy for me to rent. I'm going to go back to Railroad Street, actually. So that was 10 offices. I had it filled in about 2 months. And usually when I do the individual officing, there's a quick turnover, and then you find the tenants that are going to stay for a long period of time. Downstairs, there's 3 different businesses looking at downstairs, where I'm going to go with 2 of them. One is the Pilates place, Crescent Trail Pilates. Another is a guy who's been very successful in the restaurant business, moved back to the area to be near family, and he does 17 to 21 course meals. And he'd be open, I think, Thursday to Saturday. And I think they cost between $80 and $120 if you were to go there and have that meal.
That's new information tonight. Before you were looking at a ravioli guy or something?
Oh, no, so that's the same person. So during the week, he plans to make fresh pasta. And then Thursday to Saturday would be the multi-course meals.
And this is dine in or take out or?
Dine in. So not great for this climate that we're having right now, but someday. And then the third is the new one, is a wine bar / takeout. And I don't know how that works. I'm not privy to the liquor authority, how they can allow people to come in, drink, and bring bottles of wine out. Maybe it is possible, but it's someone I think that's been looking in the village. I don't know if you've heard of this. I don't even know the guy's last name. So, but he called and we're meeting.
So essentially it is kind of like the box factory setup, where you have the commercial small individual offices upstairs, and then that retail on the first floor.
Yeah. And those offices are always 100% full. Somebody moves out on the 30th or 31st, somebody's in there the next day. Honestly, because I know I feel like the taxes are going to go well above 40,000 on this building if I build it out like this. I did the math on if I really band-aid this place back together, maybe adding a couple new windows so that offices upstairs have windows. I'd do much better financially, but it wouldn't be a pretty building.
So where do these tenants come from, Chris? Are these tenants that are already within the village somewhere that would be moving in, or?
No, most of them are not. And unfortunately, some of them, their companies are out of town. They just can't work out of their house. So it's not, I don't want to give you the misperception that a new business is going to come to Fairport. It might be, a guy that works for a company out of Chicago that needs an office.
A manufacturer's rep that needs some
Exactly,
office
yeah.
space that he only occupies part-time.
Yeah, and I don't know if estheticians are professional, but I always get a slew of estheticians looking. Unfortunately, they need water, but I plan to put 2 sinks in 2 of the offices so that I could rent to an esthetician. They seem to do very well.
Have you had any conversation? Well, I'm going to back up even a little further. Have you purchased this, or do you have a purchase offer, or where are you in the?
We're to phase 2 environmental. We're supposed to close beginning of January.
Okay.
But I doubt that'll happen.
All right. And so have you had any conversations with Deb Fuller, primarily from the village, as to what, if you were to go ahead with a plan like the one that we're looking at now? I'm just seeing parking spaces, and what are there going to be issues, or what conversations have you had?
So with Jason a little bit, Deb is aware, and I think she may have come through the building. I know she's seen the plans. And it sounds like I can rely on box factory parking and the public parking, just like kind of Campagna, the old Campagna relied on the public parking right next to their lot.
Sure. I mean, that's one of the things planning board does consider.
Brian White kind of made it sound like that it shouldn't be a problem going through both boards.
So what we're talking about is 17 offices?
17 offices and 2 retail downstairs.
2 or 3?
2 retail.
Just 2.
One of the 2 out of those 3 tenants.
Okay. Rob, thoughts?
I keep
Question?
on thinking, just thoughts, really. Chris, appreciate the investment in the village, certainly, and one of the things that we've been utilizing and working on of late is an economic development study, which is, I think Martha messaged you a little bit, that is one of the things that we're using to drive strategic vision going forward. And fortunately or the development proposed, the breaking up into these smaller suites, if you will, wasn't an area of focus kind of that was coming as a clear message of a good strategic path forward coming out of this economic development study.
Okay.
That is one of the factors that's on my mind. And I just want to give you're not part of these conversations all the time. I want to give you some clarity in regards to how we come to decisions like this. But that was one of the main factors for me, investing time and funds to get a development study like this. The thought was, we need to listen to it. We need to let it be a driver for decision-making processes going forward. So that's one of the factors I wanted to kind of underscore with you, that it's not just a room full of us kind of willy-nilly making decisions, trying to think forward long-term and fulfill needs and fill gaps.
Okay. So the amount of people coming into the village for these individual offices versus, let's say I put the Pilates girl upstairs, maybe she'll have 2 employees working in a day, but maybe another 5 that might use that. I think that if I were to turn half the upstairs into Pilates and put her up there, that there's still more people coming into the village, spending money, going to lunch and getting their, well, they don't get their dry cleaning done around here anymore, but using some of the village businesses. And that's not kind of a qualifying factor.
I think it certainly belongs on the list, Chris. It's just not in a vacuum the only one, right?
So how about that if I were to divide it into 4 spaces and had bigger businesses?
Certainly worth considering. I mean, when you think about the build out of that second floor that you have in mind, holistically, let me look back. Holistically, how much is that space when you think about just the second floor, Chris, when project completed?
I have it. Hold on. Let's, apologize. Upstairs is is 3,322 square feet. That's with the addition.
So that full space with including the addition
Mhm.
falls within the spectrum that the study is driving us towards.
Okay.
I don't know if that answers your question, but if you look at that holistically, it gets you into the spacing that this study was uncovering as an area of need.
Yeah, it would bring the entire building up to 5,609 square feet.
Okay.
Close to the 4,500 square feet that it currently is.
Okay.
Chris,
Kevin, that was it from me.
Chris, it's Ken Rohr.
Yeah. Hey, Ken.
Oh. How are you?
Good.
Good. Are you able at all to comment on the environmental? I mean, I know Dewey Jackson was in there for years and years and years.
Yeah.
Is it going all right, or what's the scoop?
Honestly, I don't think it's going to.
It's not going to go all right.
No, I don't think so. But, you know,
I
they
don't
haven't. Yeah. I think that because of the way the land's pitched and I mean, everything from the garage that was across the street for how many ever years they were there, it's got seeped under that road and made it onto that property from the box factory. And yeah, but that's all. They haven't dug yet, but
Gotcha.
I'll see it going.
And phase one told you needed a phase two, correct?
Yeah, because of the history.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Leslie,
I wondered about the box factory and current capacity and current occupancy, I guess is better yet, of a very similar concept, and then building even more of them next door, essentially. And just how many is too many, enough, what
Yeah,
for the
demand.
village of Fairport? Yeah, for
Yeah.
demand.
Yeah, so we haven't had that problem yet. I still have a waiting list going. I have two very eager people that, you know, once something opens up in the box factory, they're going to move in. One's box factory specific. The other guy could probably make it over at Railroad Street or 24 North Main. But I get a lot of calls, and when I do the individual ads, the calls continue. So we had a good streak of, I think it was 4.5 years of 100%. With, you know, not one day in between missed rent. And that's 39 individual offices. That includes Railroad Street.
and Chris, what differentiates your properties from the Village Landing or Packett's Landing that are showing vacancy? Is it primarily size that you're offering?
On some of them, yeah. I got to imagine, and that's so. The fourth floor is the first place where we did the individual offices. We did mini suites and individual offices, and it was during the housing crisis. Remax moved out, and I thought I was going to be stuck with this space empty for a couple of years. So we filled that in about 3 or 4 months after build out. I'm sorry, what was your question?
Just what's different than
I'll never forget Judge Barone saying, I feel like I'm at a hotel with a concierge service. So his was different, but you know, if anything's wrong with their space inside, we take care of things typically a landlord doesn't normally take care of, whether it's a light bulb or ballast or I don't know, spots in their carpet, stuff like that. You know, they bring it to our attention, and if we can help fix it, we fix it. With the individual offices, it gives a lot of new businesses the opportunity to get into a contract with us that is not holds them to a year or 3-year lease. So we have they're all month to month with a 30-day notice. Get a lot of people that don't feel pressured by that, and they end up renting solely because of the month to month. We include everything. There's no extra charges like you see the $150 offices in the city, individual offices in the city, but then you're paying for, you know, the water and coffee and internet and copies and stuff like that. Everything's included here. I let people out of it. So if somebody has some sort of family emergency and need to get out of their lease immediately, I tell them this when I show them the space, that I'll start calling people on our waiting list and coordinate it with you to move out and get somebody else in, so we can refund any of your money. We don't keep security deposits. We're not petty and, you know, because of a nail in a wall or a spot in the carpet. Yeah, 24/7. That's about it. Tutorials free.
Leslie, any more stuff that?
No, I'm going to pass it on to Donna.
I guess I just have a question. It's more for the other board members, and maybe Martha. Just when I think of that worksheet, that benefit ratio worksheet, I mean, is somebody occupying an office space a job created? That's my question.
We're looking to Martha.
Yes, you know, at a very granular level, you would count that job. But again, I think the conversation more is about back to Rob's point about the economic development study and yes, but yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's
Yeah,
very hard to like, it's different than, say, if a company, you can understand it's different than if a company with 17 people located here versus 17 individuals. So it gets fuzzy, right?
Right, because an employer with a job, it's a position. It's not necessarily the person. It's how many positions are created versus a person. Okay.
Right.
No, and I want to just say that I completely echo Rob's thoughts on this, and so that's it.
Do you want me to go through a list of tenants and the individual offices and tell you what they do? I don't know exactly what all of them do with that.
For new tenants, Chris? For
New tenant, I mean, this is kind of the run of the mill. What we get are some of the tenants that we have. And I can tell you what they do if they own the company.
Yeah, just kind of thumbnail some some of the typicals that you have.
Yep, Edge Marketing was in Penfield. They have 2 offices here. They do digital marketing. We have Eye Candy. She's does eyelashes, very successful. And then a bunch of attorneys, financial advisor, a gutter company from Syracuse. He's renting here so that he can work in the area too. Another advertising company. He does bus advertisements on the sides of buses. Engineer Components does packaging for electronic products. And a guy that started a business, he does sensors. So if you put a sensor on your hot water heater or under your sink or something like that, it'll tell you if you're having a leak. Also tests, I mean, he does all sorts of sensors. I'm not gonna get into that. Do you want me to keep going?
Nah, I just kind of a cornucopia of business. So.
And a lot of them, like the attorneys, none of them were in Fairport. You know, they've come back to Fairport or, you know, live in the area.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Ken, Rob, Leslie, Donna, any other questions that we have for Chris?
I would just ask if Chris, if you're open to potentially reworking that second floor so that it does fall
absolutely.
more in line.
Yeah, absolutely. It'd be actually cheaper for me to rework the second floor, less walls. But yeah, absolutely. And if it helped get me into a pilot program, I'd be up for that.
I think it would certainly change the dynamic of the conversation that we had previously.
Okay. And then I'd love to see the worksheet or understand, okay, what do I need to do to get in here? What are some of the criteria you're asking for? So,
and actually, Chris, thanks. One of the things I was going to ask you, when you say get into a pilot, what is it you might be looking for? What would that pilot be structured like?
Well, I'm not sure. I didn't study business. I didn't study real estate, but to get into something for a set amount of years, knowing that my property taxes are going to be X for those first.
Get a bit of an echo there, Chris, if you can start.
Oh, to get into, to know that my taxes are going to be X amount for however long a normal pilot program is. I know the one here was 50 years or whatever, and I'm not expecting that. it just, if I can go back to Railroad Street, our taxes got doubled. Then we did the renovation on the individual offices and it went up 33%. And it just, that kind of kills it. After you invest the money into it, I realize I'm improving the property and that it's probably worth more money. But, you know, when we did the projection of this is what we're going to put into it, this is how long it's going to come back. And then, you know, taxes go up 33% and it shoots that farther on down the road.
What was the purchase price you've agreed on, Chris?
500,000.
Okay. And so information Martha will share with you, any of those things that you're asking about, many of them that are public documents, certainly. Martha, any other things that you would like to add before we let Chris go?
Actually, I hate to take up your time. I do have a couple questions.
Oh,
sorry. It just occurred to me. Things like that you guys have done this for, let me know if I'm wrong, but the brewery, the ice cream shop, Moonlight Creamery.
They did not get pilots.
Not
the
pilots.
brewery did not get pilots.
So who are the last three? I know the cannery, right?
The cannery, Ace Financial at the post office. Oh, 56 Liftbridge. That's Joel Barrett's renovation on West Avenue.
Oh, okay. All right.
And Fairport Landing as well,
Fairport,
when they
of
did
course.
their renovation.
Village Landing.
Yeah. All right.
Okay. Anything else, Martha?
I'm good.
Okay. Well, Chris, thank you very much for your time. We will consider this, and I know that you're kind of getting anxious, and we'll do our work and our discussions, and hopefully be able to talk with you some more.
All right. Thanks for your time. Happy holidays.
You too, Chris. Thank you.
All right, bye.
Okay. And just for the minutes, Ken Rohr did join us, was not here for the roll call, but did join us at whatever time that was. So Martha has that logged. All right. Martha, did we want to go ahead with Randy and have him just kind of go through what we need to know? And we can cover IDA, LDC, and urban renewal all on the audit.
Sounds like a good plan.
Okay. Well, thanks for joining us, Randy. So why don't you talk to us? We have I know that you met last week with the audit committee and shared a lot, but there's a couple of us from the board that are not part of that. So just a run through of the audit and what you found and what you want to share with us.
Okay. Thank you for having me here. But yeah, we did meet in detail with the audit committee. We dove in pretty low level with a lot of stuff, which was good. They had a lot of questions. Just kind of on the overall, and I'll talk about the IDA first. And I think you guys have all of the issued documents in advance. I don't, at least electronically, I don't know if they got them hard copy in time. But the audit went well. We did issue an unmodified or clean audit opinion, which is what you're looking for, what you're trying to get to. We had a few adjustments which are outlined in that one letter that is attached to the documents in some of those areas. Some of those which we talked about, are things that maybe could be identified during the closing process and not part of the audit process themselves. And I know that management will work towards that, down the road. Trying to think what else here. So, there's one new accounting standard this year that really allowed the organization to delay implementation of some other standards. So with everything going on, in the pandemic period of time in March, April, May, the standards board actually acted very quickly and passed a standard to push off the implementation, which was very helpful because it would have been, kind of hard to implement some things. So that was beneficial to the organization. I don't think there's a lot that would have a lot of impact on you, but nonetheless, it was still in place. Thinking about IDA itself, the biggest thing that you kind of look at there was a kind of a net loss this year, if you will, but a lot of that had to do with the community support that was put out, by the IDA. So, the loss was planned, if you will, and went towards community efforts, mainly to the IDA, or I'm sorry, to the Development Corp for purposes of the various funding that you did there. Revenue wise, you were consistent year over year, and your expenses, excluding the community support, was consistent year over year, as you would imagine it would be. So again, other than that, there was really no huge surprises there on the IDA from this year to last year. You did notice that Box Factory did pay down $100,000 on their note, which lowered that payment, and therefore the ultimate amount due down the road, down thereafter, which is going to be 2045, which I hope to be retired by then and will not see that payment. But that's when that is coming due for you. But that pretty much covers IDA. Any other questions on that?
Nope.
Okay. And I guess we're going to jump into the other two right after. Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, do them right now.
Okay.
Might as well, but we won't tie you up. So.
Yep, very good. So someone's got some feedback. Must be Martha. I don't know who that feedback was. So if we think about Development Corp, I'll jump onto that one next. Again, unmodified, clean audit opinion for the organization. That's exactly what you're looking for. The major highlights for this, really, cash is up a little bit at year end, really because of timing of the deferred revenue. So those amounts that transferred over, didn't fully get expended for those projects. And that's why that money kind of sits there. But all in all, still in a fine place. You've got the loan activity that is moving along as it normally would. You did increase the allowance at year end because of everything that was going on. And that was one of the discussions that we had at the audit committee level was, the level of the reserves and whether they're sufficient given everything going on. And what I stated there is, our responsibility is to consider those things. Has anything changed since year end and now that would lead us to believe, those receivables may not be collectible in the normal course, but, nothing, at least at this point, is indicative to me that what you guys have done is not sufficient. And you did raise those substantially. So, I felt comfortable at least where they are right now. No one knows where they're going, but I think, you've done a fairly decent analysis. And I think with Martha's background in the banking side, there's a lot of, assessment behind that. Some folks just say, I'm going to pick a number, but I know that there's a lot of thought process and ranking that goes into what's there. So that gives us some comfort on the audit side. And that's pretty much it for Development Corp. So I will jump to URA, which is the more complicated component of everything. And if you recall, URA also has a single audit. So we also issued an unmodified, a clean opinion on the URA statements. And we also did not have any issues with compliance related to the Section 8 program. There was some additional funding received during the year from COVID, specific related to COVID. Not all of that was expended. So some of that sits on the balance sheet as unearned or deferred revenue as well. So until that is used for those COVID-related expenses or additional costs down the road. But otherwise, I think things stayed pretty well consistent year over year, especially from a revenue perspective and even from an operating expenses perspective. They were up a little bit, but really because of the COVID costs that were in place. The allowance for loan loss went up there as well by about $27,000 or so over the prior year. And it still cash flows from operations as you'd expect it to do based on the nature of the organization. Just looking through my notes from before, one new loan this year for $7,200 that was issued, a note, I should say, not a loan, but a note payable. Looking down the road here. Yeah, nothing else that I can think of off the top of my head. I talked to Martha about doing kind of a high level. So if the audit committee wants me to cover anything else that I didn't cover, or if any of the board members have any other questions that I didn't address, I'd be happy to answer those for you.
Right. Yeah, let's turn it over to Ken as chair of the audit committee, and anything that Ken that you want to add or question, and certainly Donna and Leslie feel free to jump in on that as well. You there, Ken? Okay. Leslie or Donna, anything out of the audit committee meeting that you might want to add?
Kevin, I'm sorry.
Oh,
I think I got a lot of feedback. I can't talk.
yeah, you do. You see that you're up there on two different devices, and
I think what Kevin was going to say is I did such an outstanding job that he doesn't have any remaining questions. I really think that's what he was going to comment on.
good job.
No,
Rick.
I think Randy, you summarized what we discussed, so I don't have anything to add.
Oh, I must be Martha did something, because now I'm not making noise anymore.
Good.
It was the committee, as I recall, was not surprised by anything that was reported to us. I think we, as I recall, and I think Randy mentioned it, we had a net loss in the IDA, but that was expected and in fact planned. We knew that. And there were really no surprises, and the fact that he had no problems getting the information he needed, and I think we're in pretty good shape. I don't recall any conversation where we had difficulties understanding or any disagreements or anything of the sort. I think we were good.
And we're pleased that, I know it's kind of a standard notation, but in talking to you in the past, we're always glad to hear about the cooperation with our staff and how well they are responding, or as we understand it, that they are responsive to questions that you have and any corrections or suggestions that you might make. And we're just always glad to hear you say that, Randy, that the staff is working very well with you. So. All right.
Kevin, do you want a motion to accept the statements, or not now, or what?
We'll do that in the agenda. We'll cut
Okay.
We'll cut Randy free here, and thank him again for coming in, and have a great holiday.
Thank you. You too. Take care, everybody.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay. Back to the agenda. First item of the agenda is the approval of the November 15th, 2020 meeting minutes from the IDA.
So moved.
Second.
Any comments or corrections or further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous. And then we'll move to the approval of the December 15th, 2020 meeting minutes of the IDA Audit Committee. And that is
Move
comprised
approval.
of 3 members. So,
I'll second that.
any discussion or corrections or comments on those minutes? Okay, so for the 3 of you, all in favor?
Aye.
That is unanimous. Okay, moving on to financial reporting. Resolution 2020-12, authorizing payment of the IDA bills.
So I have reviewed the bills this month, and I would make a motion to approve those.
I will second.
Any questions regarding any of those bills from the board? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oh, Martha talking to us?
You're on mute, Martha.
Okay, hi.
You're muted.
Am I back now?
Yes, you are.
Okay, I just wanted to point out that first legal bill that you see on the resolution includes about $1,000 in fees related to the American Park Place litigation. And that we have not had much movement on. We don't expect that depositions and so forth will happen until after the first of the year. And also you see the payment for villager construction there for the parking lot. And I did get favorable reviews from the DPW manager with regard to the improvements. And he said that it plows really great. So he's happy with the work there. So.
Good. Okay. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 That's unanimous. Cash and investments. Anything that you want to call out here on IDA, Martha?
Nothing. The rates we're getting are just pretty abysmal these days. So, but I continue to ladder the CDs. I've got that one, the $300,000 one earmarked for the Bicentennial Canal Gateway. And that combined with a maturity in the investment portfolio of about $50,000 will fund our commitment on or about April.
I'm not sure who that was, but okay. The Tompkins investment report. We've all seen that and how that's trending. We're 2 months ago, we made sure that they were in compliance with our investments, and they were. So that's a good thing. And then the financial statements for IDA.
One of the things you'll see there is I think that's the second payment to SWBR with regard to the economic development study. The total contract was $26,000. We've paid them about $21,500 so to date. Reached out to Don this morning and inquired about when we might be able to see that study be delivered, as well as the impact analysis. And he's hoping to get it together and be able to present it to us at the January board meeting.
Okay.
Nice.
All right. We'll move on to, is there any old business, Martha?
I did not have any.
Anybody else have any old business they'd like to follow up with from the board? No? Okay. All right. Moving into new business, the New York Main Street grant. We received a proposal from Labella for grant writing services or grant application assistance. So, Martha?
Right. As you recall, the village engaged Labella Associates to do the grant underwriting for the Bicentennial Canal Gateway project. I had run into Ed Flynn at a conference down near Albany a few years before that, and we'd gotten friendly, and I brought him into that project, and he was successful. They did a great job. We were able to secure $450,000 in grant funding for the project. So this year, when they finally, we did not have a CFA round this year, but they did announce the New York State Main Street grant, which included a technical assistance component. And those funds can be used to provide 95% up to $20,000 for things like an economic development plan, which, as you recall, we've engaged the services of SWBR et al. With an economic development study. And our intent was that we would take that study and turn it into a plan. And so this is a great opportunity to provide funding for that plan. Ed's made a proposal of $1,750, which is very reasonable. And we're looking to make the application. It's due in January. So I would ask the board, I would recommend, and I would ask the board to approve that we sign this proposal with Labella Associates to make a Main Street grant application under economic development plan.
So moved.
Is there
I'll
a
second it. Yeah.
For discussion, I think it's a great idea, you know, and certainly it's a great way to fund our project that we know we're going to be doing. My question, though, is as I read through the materials that was there, I didn't think that we had much of a chance of eligibility. And I would, based on what I read in the criteria on who is eligible, I thought it had to do with income levels that, in my mind, we exceeded. And I, you know, as much as I would love to have that, I don't necessarily want to spend the $1,750 or all the time that it would take on your end to pursue this thing if it turns out that we would be not graded very highly, and, you know, our likelihood of getting this is pretty small.
Okay, absolutely. That's something I can confirm with Ed, that ask him to put that in writing, that based on that, he determines that we're eligible, and otherwise we wouldn't move forward. So because I remember it's about census tracts and so forth.
Yeah, and it didn't look like we were on their list of people that would be eligible.
Okay, I will definitely check that. I know even Canal Director Brian Stratton has always said, why aren't you guys applying for Main Street? And, you know, maybe there's some little technicality that gets us in, but to your point, that we should confirm that we would be eligible, and before we proceed.
So the motion that we have here is to pursue and take the next step on, you know, in determining eligibility, and before we go ahead with the grant. Is that fine with those that made the motion?
Yeah, I
Yes.
was, as a point of discussion, I was also going to ask just for Martha to clarify. I wasn't sure if the 1750 was a reasonable rate for the task at hand. It sounds like it is, but I just wanted to hear more about that too.
I'm trying to remember the, if I can find his contract. I compared it to the contract that we had for the Bicentennial Canal Gateway, and that the village actually executed. And I don't have that in hand right now. Sorry
Okay.
about that.
No problem.
But essentially, I will tell you, they do all the writing, and it's just merely providing them the background information. There was very little demanded of us locally with regard to the grant writing process.
Okay.
Yeah, I as a grant writer in a prior iteration of my professional career, I would say that that's a fair rate. I mean, that's like 2 to 3 days of work. And I think that's, yeah. I definitely second Kevin's concerns about the eligibility. What didn't jump out at me. And also the description of the technical assistance. I mean, I think they would have to be very, I guess, do we trust that they're going to build a case for an environmental or a economic development plan? Because it says suggested evaluations, including building reuse studies, design guidelines, and economic development studies. So I don't want us to say we're doing a plan based off a study, and they say, oh, you've already done a study. Why are we funding this? So I think we need to be very clear where the plan will get us.
Good point.
Okay, you know what? I can get a lot more info from Ed, in particular about eligibility and success. I did ask him, you know, have you gotten these before? And he said they'd been very successful in obtaining these technical assistance grants. And we can get further information.
Understanding that we're up against a January deadline for applications, what we're giving you now is the approval conditionally that, you know, as long as there's a reasonable assurance that we are, well, number one, we are eligible, and number two, that we have a reasonably good chance of getting the grant, then we're saying, yeah, we're all in agreement to go forward.
I'll take, yes, absolutely. I'll go through that process. And before well, not this week is short, but certainly by the middle of next week. Okay. By the 30th. How's
All right.
that? And
Any
I'll
other
report.
board discussion,
report to
Ken or
you.
Leslie, regarding any of this? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. That's
Thank you.
unanimous.
Thank you.
Okay. Next item for IDA is the report of operations and accomplishments that you forwarded to us and as part of our packet. Nice job.
Yeah, I do enjoy putting this together every year. These are required reports for New York State, but I do enjoy in particular putting together the ops and accomplishments because we forget after a while how much we actually do in a year. So in that first section there, I just talk a little bit about how our operations were impacted with the COVID pandemic and some just basic, functional items. And then if we go back and look at all of the things that we did over the year, finally closing on the cannery project, $10 million investment there. There was quite a bit of negotiations involved in the land transfer agreements. And then the upgrades to the IDA parking lot, selling off the, surplus property to the Village Inn, and our new project, of course, with the post office. And I do take a pretty hard stop on this on 9:30. I try to keep it to that. So that's why, I reference, begin negotiations, versus closing. You'll see that again next year's report. The capital projects we did this year with our, the Bicentennial Canal Gateway, repairing the Butterfly Garden, the North Main parking lot expansion, Thomas Creek Boardwalk, the pandemic initiative, the economic development study, and so forth. I mean, it's fabulous what we get done here. I loved this report, except I made a note to myself to complete it every month so that I don't have to put it all together in one swoop at the end of the year. But
and it's good also as a piece, one of the piece of the your presentation to the village board too.
Yes. Yes.
Is that spring, Martha?
February is traditionally the month that we do that.
I would also point out that Martha made these accomplishments without hardly any administrative support over the course of the year. So thank you so much for all this great work.
Thanks, Ken. I appreciate that. I got a great job. And I have fun.
Good.
But I'm woefully underpaid, so we'll talk about that some other time.
Any other board members with comments regarding that?
The list of accomplishments or her salary?
Let's stick with the accomplishments.
And very impressive.
We're expected to have accomplishments in our jobs, so. So we'll move on to management assessment of internal control structure and procedures.
Yes, again, another requirement by the New York State Public Authorities law. And literally, I just take what they tell us we should say. I plug in our name, but it is true that we assess and document our internal control structures and process. We do this through our bookkeeping, through our monthly reporting, et cetera, et cetera. And of course, we have, an outside audit of the statement. So I feel comfortable that this is a true statement. So literally, I'm just we're fulfilling a requirement of the public authorities law by making this statement, which will be posted to our website. That's all.
And the same is true with the mission statement and measurement report?
The mission statement's a little bit true. Yes, it's something that we have to do. It's a little redundant sometimes to report to the operations and accomplishment report.
The government, it's redundant.
So I think as part of the economic development study, we did a visioning statement, and we could I think we talked about spending some time on that and kind of refining our mission. And then I think those performance goals will come out of that. I think maybe these are the correct ones. They cover it, but it does seem a little redundant. But again, we're just, I think you can see other, I've looked at other reports. People talk about how many calls they went on, or, how many conferences they attended, or yada, yada, yada. But this basically sums up what we're supposed to be doing here. And it just is a very high level report.
That's fine. Okay. So then how about presentation and adoption of the 2019-2020 audit? We heard from Randy from Bonadillo, and the audit committee has met with him as well. So is there a motion to accept the audit?
I will make a motion to accept the audit 2019, 2020.
I will second.
Okay. Any more discussion or questions anybody thought of regarding the audit?
One of the things I'd like to point out to you is on page 23 are the audit adjustments that the auditors had to do at the end of the year. And literally, they're not a lot. So I really think, we've done a really good job with our outside bookkeeping, and then who is doing some great training with Lily so that she'll be able to take up the mantle here. But really, that is, can you back me up here? I think that's nothing.
It is nothing, and we learn from it, and we won't see any repeats next year. It's just becomes part of the process. I get it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. If there's nothing else, all in favor of accepting the audit?
Aye.
Aye. That's unanimous. And
Oh.
And the last item on the agenda is for the Paris reports that we've been talking about.
Right. So again, this is, we're doing what the Public Authorities Accountability Law requires us to do. On an annual basis, I have to submit Paris reports on each entity. But you can see by the directives, you don't have to see all of those reports. You need to see these reports, which is essentially, we're reformatting the audit and putting it into their accounting system. But typically I do an annual report, a procurement report, an investment report, summary financial report, and then of course our budget report. So I do 5 reports for each entity. So they are all posted on our website in their entirety. And the IDA one includes project level detail to report on all of our projects, including investments, exemptions, jobs, those types of things. And though they're not there yet, they'll be there before the end of the year. So I think for this one, I would ask for a motion to accept because they're asking us to ensure that the board saw them.
Okay.
I'll make that motion.
I have a second. Anyone?
I'll second.
Any questions for Martha regarding that or any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That's unanimous. That's it for the agenda, but I think that we should deal with the Chris Casa going forwards and just thoughts from it. I don't know that we're ready to approve anything like that, but just kind of a direction, agree upon what our course should be regarding this, as seeking more information or our own thought processes or whatever. So open.
Just a reminder, we are live streamed, so and recorded.
Yep.
And certainly what I'd have to do is work with Chris closer on his budget. And in particular, suss out a little bit more about what he's looking for with regard to the pilot agreement. As you know, he said he doesn't expect what he got from the box factory, but you know, a standard UTEP, you know, may not be even acceptable, may not work for him. So, you know, I have to do some work with him about what that pilot would look like, and how that would financially impact his project. But I do think the economic development study, in particular, the focus on, you know, spaces for small firms, you know, the professional scientific firms, we should, thank you, remain focused on that. One of the things, I am working with a local homegrown kind of IT firm, and they're looking for 10,000 square feet. They've got about 35 employees. And we're hopefully going to be putting them up at the cannery, which would be fantastic. But again, I think we are within our, we're doing our due diligence when we consider projects that not everybody gets one, a pilot,
Right.
but there are, you know, but there may be opportunities to provide assistance.
If I could, with regards to this project specifically, it could potentially fall within the retail, and so therefore, which we're not allowed to do. We were able to do it for Fairport Landing because the library is not deemed retail. So, and then for Fairport Landing, or sorry, Village Landing, for Fairport Landing, it was deemed a tourism destination due to the unique nature of that facility. For 56 Lift Bridge, it was all residential. So in this context, with regards to his project, there's a high likelihood there could be a lot of retail, or if these are short-term leases where he has a lot of turnover, so it could be an office, most of them are offices, they turn it over and it starts being more retail, he could lose his exemption because it has to be for the duration of the pilot, it has to still qualify as a project. So, you know, for example, if the library were to move out and Frank were to turn that all into, you know, a big, you know, 3 or 4 restaurants, break it up, it would no longer qualify. So I think that, you know, in this type of project, we have to be careful about something like that. So I just want to bring that up for the board's attention.
Okay. So there's some work to do, and Martha, you and Chris will be talking, and then we'll just keep it on the radar.
He does a great job with the properties he has, and he's a committed village, not a resident, but he's, you know, he is committed to the village, and he provides great space for a certain, you know, group of people that are looking for that type of thing. And so, yeah, happy to work with him. Absolutely.
Okay.
Kevin, it's Ken. I just want to say that after having heard from Chris, you know, I'm favorably impressed with what he's trying to do and what he's already done in the village. So I'm just hoping there's something we can find to help him along the way, and that's my take on it. He's you know, he's a stalwart in the village, and I would like to see him stay here and do great things.
Anyone else? I will take a motion.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. May I just offer some comments? The cannery has asked us to extend their ST60, their tax exemption, through the end of 2021, and Ed and I are working on that as they continue to develop 75 North Main Street. The North Bank project, the bid opening this week, the village received 3 bids. Ironwood Heavy Highway came in at $1,273,000. Villager came in at $1,491,000, and Crane Ogan came in at $1,295,000. So those were all well below what the GPI had estimated. I think GPI had $1,000,008.
$1,000,008.
So that's really great news. Really great news.
And that project, once awarded, should start fairly quickly.
Right. I think we learned a lot with the South Bank, and how to get in the water as soon as possible and get out. So I think that it'll move forward very quickly.
Anything else IDA, Martha?
Nope, that's it.
Okay. I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Unanimous. You're going to stop the recording and everything? Or,
Yes, thank you. One moment, please.
and we're going to LDC next? Is that what we